as this is conversational, that means that I get to communicate with the audience? Question mark?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just need to repeat if somebody's saying something that you're answering, or just to kind of paraphrase a little bit.
Okay, because this is live.
Yeah, for the people at home, so they can
Okay.
have it. So I recorded physical copy as well. So, okay, all right. Give me a second.
Now you got me thinking about zoo animals.
All right, and we're live.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Yay, thank you. I'm very much of a call and response type of human. So my name is Suzette Chang. I am the founder and CEO of Thick Descriptions. And let me know, we do have an audience here, so let me know, should I be looking directly at you or should... Awesome, okay. So I am the founder and CEO of Thick Descriptions. We disrupt traditional educational methods. And we do that through 3 programs. Our most popular one is STEAM, and the A for us is anthropology. The second one is Oklahoma Educators Evolve, teaching teachers how to disrupt traditional educational methods. And the last one is Elephant in the Room Unboxed, teaching listeners. So we are getting ready to launch a podcast, and we're teaching listeners how to disrupt educational methods and have those very uncomfortable conversations. You know, Thanksgiving is coming up, so you might want to brush up on your on those uncomfortable conversation tools. So I am here to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion within the context of politeness. So how many of you know that, and this is literally a question, how many of you know that Oklahoma was ranked as the most polite state in the country? And so for a lot of us, that is a good thing. I push back on that because that suggests that because we're polite, that we don't need to do anything else. You know, I was nice to you, isn't that enough? Which is very surface. Before we started this recording, we were having a conversation about transportation, which I think is very appropriate. Oklahoma is in the process of building, strengthening our public transportation, and we still have a little ways to go. And so if you combine that within the context of equity, and so traditionally, diversity, equity, and inclusion suggests that we have a diverse space, meaning there's lots of different humans doing lots of different things. We have inclusion. Everyone is invited to the table to have these different types of conversations and make decisions. And then equity is creating spaces where, based on our diversity, our experiences, we're able to access and be involved. So when you apply that definition as it relates to transportation, are we really that equitable here in Oklahoma? We're not. So let's unpack that. And then when you add politeness of, you know, I can pick you up in my car, right? Right, it doesn't solve the issue. It's a temporary, you know, grateful that you're willing to give me a ride, then what? So Oklahoma City specifically, we are a growing and robust space, and that's a wonderful thing. When you apply public transportation or our inability to create spaces for people to move around, and Sean, I'm going to bring you into this, he hit it on the head. All of our, and I'm including myself in this, all of us car drivers, we're kind of privileged, which doesn't create room or spaces for humans that don't have access to public transportation, because we're still working on it. We still have a ways to go, don't have access to a vehicle. And now with, you know, gas going up and so many other things, other forms of public transportation, be it cabs, you know, and other, I'm purposely not using certain names. It's expensive. So the basic need of, and again, within the context of equity, we're trying to make sure that people can work. But how can they if public transportation is almost non-existent? So that's really a question for you all to think about. What can we do differently so that, I believe Sean said that we're looking at maybe 2 to 5 years.
To see some significant progress.
Okay.
Based on some of the things that are in the works right now.
Okay. Progress meaning there's outside of the trolley that we currently have.
Right. There's a BRT system that will launch in 2023. Then there's 2 more that will be coming in the following 2 to 5 years. Once those are in place, those are more rapid lines going to major parts of the city, and then we'll have then the existing bus routes will be able to change to adapt to those higher speed routes to cover more of the city.
Okay, and BRT is?
Bus rapid transit.
Bus rapid transit, okay. So anyone else, I mean, outside of what Sean has said, and I'm purposely looking at us humans that come from, so I'm originally from the Bay Area where public transportation has been a staple for decades. And then moving here, that was yet another culture shock for me, another inequity that is going on. For those of you that come from spaces where public transportation is a staple, what do you think? What can we do different?
I mean, I think as a city, one of the biggest issues we have is how spread out we are as well. Oklahoma City is very, very spread out.
Okay, so we're very spread out, okay.
Makes it difficult to bring a bus system.
It does create some pauses, and there is a price tag attached to it.
And time.
And time.
Because you could be picked up for a bus and not make it to work for an hour and a half.
Correct. One way.
One way.
One way, an hour and a half.
And
Right.
if you have children,
Oh, yes.
you can't take them to daycare on a bus system.
Correct.
And drop them off in the.
Again, moving here 20 years ago, and I still recall having to put my firstborn on a public bus to get from home to school. She was a middle school at the time, and unfortunately there was a human there that decided to masturbate while she was on the bus. And so helping her to address and unpack that was a lot. At the same time, and this is my part of it, of you have to go to school. So very much being in a survivalist type of mentality of, there are no other options. If I'm going to work this way and you're going to school that way, which ties into what you were talking about earlier of not so much of daycare, but parents that have to get their kids to school. And if you're relying on public transportation, and this is what it looks like.
Well, and that system is continually broken because if kids don't go to school, parents are then punished.
Correct. Correct. It's the spiral. It is the spiral. You are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. Anyone else? This is a really good conversation about equity within the context of transportation. I think collectively we tend to not apply equity outside of ethnicity or gender, which I'm not suggesting that we still need to do that. And there are so many inequitable experiences that humans are having, unfortunately, on a daily basis. And one of those consistents is transportation. Anyone else want to share their thoughts? Because my brain is definitely going right now. Of like, what board can I get on to where I'm helping to push the needle a little bit more. Yeah.
I will say mobility-wise, talk about like the ability, like I walk my dog and take her places, and sidewalks aren't the only issue I've run into. It's intersections of crosswalks.
Mm-hmm.
I live off of MacArthur, and the Memorial Road is down that way, and I've driven by there because I'm privileged to have a car, right, which is really nice. And I've looked, because I've been like, I want to walk my dog on a walk and see if I can go like across the Kilpatrick just on over there. There's not a sidewalk there, there's like crosswalks, but then things aren't laid out.
Right.
It's just, if I want to cross the street to get to like a business, even,
Right.
like I want to be a customer
Right.
at a business, I've got to go all the way down the block here to cross and then go over, or I've got to go all the way down to Memorial, go over and
Right.
cross. And so like, and there's 4 lanes, and it's like there's hills right where I'm at, so you could kind of go, okay, I think we can sprint. If I had
Wow.
a newborn, don't think so.
Wow. Wow,
So,
wow.
Yeah.
And as you were sharing your story, so thank you for sharing that, what comes to my mind is the countless, and I've done it as well, so we see a pedestrian and do the Oklahoma wave. Like, you're good, you can, right, you can go by, which ties into that politeness thing, not taking into consideration all that you have to do because you are on 2 legs versus my 4 wheels.
And the hills, maybe you're coming.
Right, 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 right.
5 miles per hour is really fast for
Yes, where
acceleration.
with a human being that might be, let's say, a $105, 100 plus versus several thousand pounds.
Yeah.
Right,
Without transportation, there's also an inability to get services, help, assistance. I was thinking of Urban Mission, which is just right here around the corner, and how many people they had to switch to a drive-through system
wow,
during COVID, and you can't walk up.
right,
For so many reasons, and so therefore they're not able to receive the services that are
Right.
so beneficial.
right,
But there's also legal help that people can't get to.
Right.
And family systems help, mental health help.
Right.
Any sort of thing that you can't make an appointment,
right,
and you can't even make them, let alone go to them.
right,
And so for a lot of things, transportation also prevents us, it's a glass ceiling
correct,
for improving as a society in all
Correct.
sorts of healthy ways.
correct. Very good points.
And funny enough, by most of society, I think public transit is viewed more of a necessary evil. You know, like a lot of people badmouth the bus system, but they've never ridden the bus. I mean, it's
Right, right. So, Abby, as you were talking, it made me think of, so Oklahoma collectively, we are, outside of Oklahoma City, we are experiencing the digital divide. So more so in rural spaces, having access to the internet, having access to what many of us have here in Oklahoma City as a privilege, they do not. And so when you add that plus the lack of transportation, so the assumption for many is, oh, you know, everyone has a phone, you should then have access to the internet. Not necessarily. And so having access to those basic needs, if you don't have the internet and public transportation is an issue, yeah, again, it's that spiral. It's just one more thing added to it. Wow. Wow, wow.
Yeah, and if we think transportation issues are bad in the city,
Right.
the
Rural
spaces,
rural
like
is
Oklahoma,
horrid.
much worse.
Yes,
Especially if you need a specialist in the city.
correct.
Right, if you have to go from,
Or
say, Weatherford
food.
to here for something.
Right. Or food. God forbid you would want to eat.
Why eating? No.
Right, right, right. So like basic necessities are extremely connected to public transportation or the lack thereof. Yeah. There are a lot of rural communities here in Oklahoma that are considered food deserts.
also doctor deserts.
Yeah.
And
I was
doctor
just
desert,
thinking,
right.
Aren't
10
there
or
programs?
20 counties in Oklahoma that don't have an OBGYN in the county.
That is correct. That is correct.
And aren't there programs where they're trying to get doctors in those rural spaces as well?
Yep.
Like trying to give them more incentive to set up shop there as well?
Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, as we are having this conversation about transportation, public transportation, privilege, access, and all that it's connected to, I know, as I said earlier, and thank you, Sean, for saying this, I'm going to identify ways that I can be more involved, be it on an advisory committee or something to say, hey, this is an issue, what can I do to help? And so, again, as I said earlier, Thick Descriptions not only talks about these uncomfortable conversations, we identify ways to do the work with us. So I'm inviting you, each one of you here and not here physically, to get involved. Identify committees, advisories, boards, something that you can do to help shift this. This is not a light switch moment, meaning you're not going to turn a switch on. Sean has made this really clear, and it makes sense. It's not like we're going to have a bewitched moment and blink, and tomorrow we have public transportation and it's all fixed. Right. Again, a bewitched moment. We would love to have her twinkle her nose right about now, but it's just not going to happen. And if it does, it may not look like what we want it to look like.
If you live in Oklahoma City, there's a page on the city website where you can submit your name for consideration for a city commission or board. But you should also email your, if you're in Oklahoma City, you should also email your city councilor. And it's usually, if you know what ward you're in, it's that ward number at okc.gov. So like I'm in Ward 6, so ward and the number 6 at okc.gov.
Right.
And introduce yourself to your city councilor, especially if you've never met them or talked to them, and explain that you would like to be more involved, and they will put your name on a list, and when openings come up on committees, they'll a lot of times on these committees, before they even reach out to the public, they reach out to their counselors and say, do you have anyone who you think would be good for this committee?
Right.
And so by knowing your city council person, that gives you the opportunity to possibly participate.
Right, right. And even if you're not ready for that, so I'm going to reel back just a little bit. If you prefer more of a baby step approach, just go on the website and ask them to send their newsletter to you. At least once a week, I get an email. In fact, that's how I learned that the Oklahoma City, the trolley, last week we had 1 million passengers in the last 2 years. It's because I'm on that email list. And so that's a baby step, just to be informed with the understanding that maybe once a year you'll take another step and another step and another step. So maybe in the next 5 years, if that's how you roll. Because another part of this is doing what you do in your comfort, not pushing this more than what you can do. We all have full schedules. Yeah, I want to be on a committee, but that means I will probably have to drop another one, and I'm okay with that because to me it's important to serve and to find other ways to serve. And be strategic about it. Do not wear yourself out. And I'm preaching to the choir. Do not wear yourself out, because there's a lot to do. That's the wonderful thing about Oklahoma. There's a lot of opportunity to make sustainable change. Yes, say it again.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's to me, again, optimistic. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Anyone else have thoughts as it relates to public transportation, politeness, and equity?
As a solution that kind of came to my mind while hearing people talk is like our businesses in this area, and there's a lot of other businesses here. I wonder if there's a way to create rideshare things and people carpooling together that all work in this area. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is a good idea.
So I think that would
Also
be.
reduce traffic congestion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's been another pause. Again, being here for over 20 years. When I first came here, Oklahoma didn't have traffic. And now we have traffic.
I can tell with the way the roads are built, the highways, like sometimes I'm getting on the highway, I'm going, there's not a lot of exit or entrance ramp here.
No.
Coming from Kansas City area.
No.
I look at this and I'm just like, ooh, when you have to slow down a lot to exit. And
Right.
This is really dangerous.
Right.
Like, the city's
Right.
growing weight, like it's outgrown a lot of its street
Right.
structure even.
Right.
I've noticed that.
Right. And I thank you for sharing that, Vicki, because that's a really good point of until we get to where we want to be, here are some solutions of ride sharing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, and as like the business districts that have created, I mean, that's a really good format to be able to use those connections that are already there from these districts to start figuring out how to communicate and like get people connected that can work together on that stuff. So I'm gonna try to take action on that.
Okay. I think I might be able to do that as well.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was just thinking of is, when we lived in Austin, Texas, I tried not to drive because I couldn't afford gas as a grad student. And so I would take the bus to go get groceries. But then you have how many bags that you're trying to carry to get on the bus, and there's no real way to get them on the bus steps,
Right.
right? Carrying anything but those little carts
Yes.
that are
That,
inexpensive.
your cart, yes.
Are really great because
Right.
Afford at the time.
that I couldn't afford at the time, but you can pull them up the stairs, kind
Right.
of, and you can actually manage walking to and from a bus stop
Right.
without your hands breaking from 9 different bags, or
Right.
Shoulder giving out.
or your shoulder giving out,
Right.
or even just being able to not have a bag break.
Right.
Um,
With the eggs in it.
with the, unfortunately, the eggs in the milk, right? But those carts do help even just to get them on and off a bus step,
Right.
because those are also treacherous.
Right.
But even just providing some of those little carts
Right.
might be something that would be a first step.
Right.
Not expensive, but usable, and they would do more than just grocery shopping, but they could do a lot of transport to and from, because your hands are always more full than you want them to be.
Wow. And so as you were saying that and going back to the Bay Area Rapid Transit, and thinking of those buses that lower for humans with different abilities. And not only do they lower, the steps extend. So if the human is in a wheelchair, they can be self-sufficient. And that would work well for, because again, just thinking of when I did use public transportation and had a little human and those, I mean, literally, as you were saying that, I was having a complete memory of having a little human and groceries and yeah.
That's what I really like about the streetcar, because it does accommodate all that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And it's accessible to the visually impaired,
Right,
which buses are often neither are crosswalks,
right,
neither are any of our neighborhoods,
Right.
neither are anything else.
Right.
We're not a visually impaired city in many, many ways.
Well, and again, another silver lining, as many humans are migrating to Oklahoma because our cost of living is a lot better, our tax, all of that, Oklahomans collectively, we have to keep having these conversations and identify ways how we can adapt to humans that are not native. Literally just had a conversation with a family member who is visually impaired and asked them would they reconsider living in Oklahoma, and they said no, for those exact reasons. It's not accommodating. Yet. Anyone else?
Parallel to public transit is also the increase in bike access and bike safety
Yes.
throughout the city and surrounding area as well.
Yes.
More than a bike lane.
Even,
More than just a bike lane, yeah.
Yes.
bike racks.
Yes.
ways to
Where
store
you're gonna
bikes
put
when
it.
you go
Yes. And know that when you come back, it's there. Yes.
Can't go grocery shopping and where are you gonna put your bike?
Right. Right. And so back to you. So when right before we started this live, Sean came in on his bike. Thank you for being our conversation topic. He came in on his bike with all of the things that he would need for today. So as he's doing this, I'm looking at Vicky and I'm like, I think he has his phone on his handlebars. I think that's his laptop. He's got his breakfast, his lunch. He's got all of this. Wow. And it was triggering for me because it's like, that's trust. That you are riding on your bike with all these cars going by. And historically, Oklahoma City is not a bike-friendly space. We're getting there thanks to Sean and other humans that are making this brave choice. But it was triggering for me because it's like, this is not the Bay Area. This is Oklahoma City, and he's doing this. Wow. Okay. Suzette, you got to step up your game, because Sean is, I'm not saying I'm going to do all what you did. I'm not saying that at all. But you are definitely reminding me that there is power in visuals. There's power in, I don't trust this big truck that's coming nearby me, but I will ride in neighborhoods where there's not so much traffic. Anyone else? And just side note before anyone else speaks, this is how how all of our projects operate. It's very conversational. It is very not so of me or another thick descriptions human is seated, because, so let me do this. What does this suggest? Power. So thank you for bringing the chair. Two, it is conversational because we have to do this together. It is not me or another thick descriptions human telling you what to do. It's me or another thick descriptions human asking you to think with us and come up with solutions together. Yes?
And it's interesting you brought up the fact that you are seated now. And also it can be perceived differently too, because you're on a different couch altogether.
Yeah.
You're on a red couch.
Yeah.
So red is, or at least to me, it's a very powerful statement too. So it still subliminally suggests that
Fair.
you are in an authoritative position.
Fair.
All that is to say is how we create that environment.
Right.
Whether it's
Right. And so, without saying it, but now saying it, of when you're doing the work of being thoughtful, being very thoughtful of how you are perceived, especially, and I'll use myself as an example. Again, I drive a car, so I'm privileged. So I am careful of what I say and do as it relates to this topic, because I'm not riding my bike every day to work. I'm not catching the bus. When I buy groceries, I can put them in my car and drive. And so it's being thoughtful, being empathetic of the humans that are having those experiences, of what can I do to help, to make their life more of a quality experience versus, and I purposely used this word earlier, surviving. Oklahoma, traditionally, we are a surviving state. And that, no shade on that, that's an awesome thing that we have been able to survive. Now what? Now, as we are experiencing more quality of life, what does that look like within the context of transportation for every human being outside of, hey, I see you on that bike, I'm giving you the Oklahoma wave, I'm being polite, yeah, you can go on by. What is your life looking like after I do my Oklahoma wave? Anyone else?
And
Yes.
Also, another point is of bus accessibility is time. Like it runs until 7, I think. So my friend last time when he got out of work, he missed it, and he had to walk a long way, and he just decided to take a taxi for like $20.
Right.
So yeah, he has to leave work early to get on a bus.
Right. Right. Yeah, they're unlike a car, they're not going to wait.
I appreciate what Vicki suggested about ride sharing. I find myself participating in that kind of setup in a smaller context, but in a community that I'm already living life in. And it takes a bit of needing to look beyond myself, because sometimes if I have a nicer car and I'm giving ride to someone who may not necessarily be or have the best body odor, I need to suck it up, because it goes beyond my inconvenience.
Right.
And if we are conscious about who is around us,
Right.
I find myself like I have to be okay if this person is going to stink up my car, because it's not just providing a ride.
Right.
It's going beyond that.
Agreed. Agreed. And I would even take that a step further, especially if we are riding like 2 or 3 times together after, and the hygiene is still an issue, of positioning a question versus making a statement. Is there something I can pick up for you as it relates to, or I just tried this amazing soap. Did you want to try it?
Here, have some gum.
Right, or right. Because think about it, when you shift something into a question, it tends to take the edge off, the potential hurt, the potential embarrassment, versus, you stink. Kind of harsh. Kind of harsh.
But that also takes our politeness to community.
Bingo.
It moves us to a place where if we did rideshare, right, it's going to have to be convenient in lots of ways.
Correct.
So from where we live, if it were a rideshare issue, I could pick up 4 passengers. It'd be tight, but I could pick up 4 passengers relatively in my neighborhood to go to a similar location.
Right.
Right. But then I have people I ride with regularly who we're in conversation regularly who live in my neighborhood or close to it. And so you start taking our individualistic Oklahoman but American idealist mindset
Almost
of
entitlement.
individuality
Right.
of the only people I'm required to take care of live in my home.
Right.
And we start becoming community in a very
Minded.
different way.
Agreed.
We know our neighbors now.
We know
Agreed.
our neighbors,
Agreed.
and that
Kids think they're
matters.
trick-or-treating again. Yeah.
Right,
Right.
and we care about what's happening to them,
Right.
right? Because then it's not just that I care only what is happening in my house. I don't even know the names of the people who live on either side of me.
Right.
But now I know them and I have a relationship with them and I'm gonna call them if I need a cup of sugar,
Right.
right? It's a very different, almost hearkening back
Right.
many generations
Right.
to where we trusted people differently.
There's that word.
It's-
Trust.
It's vulnerability and trust.
There it
and
is.
openness that
There
we
it
don't do
is.
well in our current individualistic society.
Right. Agreed. Agreed.
I feel like you get those things if you have a homeowners association to facilitate, which implies that you have some money.
Yeah.
So I grew
HOA.
up-
Yeah.
I grew up with an HOA as a kid in Johnson County.
Right.
You know, my neighbors came over, like, we need a cup of sugar. I thought that was normal.
Right.
That's, you know, what people do.
Right.
It's not normal.
Right.
Yeah. And in our neighborhood, we don't have a neighborhood association, but we have a Facebook group, which then implies that you have internet.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And access and group me's and text messages.
Right.
So we do coordinate trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
And we know whose houses are gonna be open and whose aren't, and
Right.
you know, what's safe and what's not, and all those kinds of things, but it's all done digitally. So again,
Right.
there's an assumption that you are connected.
That you have. Right.
That you're able to be connected.
Right.
I wonder if there's a way to use like our community libraries for that too, like not just digital, but like announcing, become a part of our neighborhood association, we have little meetings or whatever.
They
You know, and
actually
then
do a
we
really good job.
Yeah, I usually see a lot of, when I look at the bulletin boards, I see a lot of childcare stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that, it just doesn't apply to me. I see teen stuff, child stuff, it's important, but I don't see anything about ride sharing, about, anything like that.
No, but at least the village library has a full wall of resources.
Correct.
So you can take a flyer for local resources if you need
Correct.
assistance with housing or assistance with food or assistance with legal care or any of those things. They have a full panel wall
Correct.
of community resources and how to call them.
Correct.
So it's phone numbers, addresses, how to map it out, all
Correct.
those kinds of things. At least the village library does a really nice job of making those resources available, but it still doesn't connect us with, come together on Tuesdays at
Yeah,
7:30
because maybe you
p.m.
don't have
after
Facebook,
work.
Yeah,
Right.
or maybe
Right.
you don't know how to use a computer very well.
Or
Right.
you don't own a computer.
Right.
You're older.
Right.
We've
You're a
talked
seasoned
about
adult.
able-bodied
Right.
Working adults, but we haven't really talked about the
Seasoned.
elderly.
Or
That's
your
right.
website is not accessible to people who are visually impaired.
Right.
It doesn't have the right things on it.
Right.
To be read aloud, and
Right.
they don't know what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, we haven't talked about wheelchair, or like motorized scooter access or walker access, or the liability that goes into taking someone with mobility issues due to age
Right.
in your vehicle. There are special rideshare programs for the elderly, but you have to have certain liabilities to put their wheelchair in your car and to
That's
have their
right.
walkers in your car, and
That's right.
there's a whole nother layer there as well, and their loneliness is so compounded.
Right.
Another way that we miss on transportation and community.
Mhm.
They can't get basic needs, can't get to stores to get medical or hygienic products.
Right.
Or any number of things.
Right. Right.
We also need to think about businesses as a partner in our communities in this aspect and expect or demand that they also contribute to this. One of the businesses I work with wanted to recruit and get a more diverse workforce and wanted to get more folks from underrepresented areas in the city, but they immediately found out transportation was the limiting factor. When your hourly employee is spending all of their paycheck to get there, and then all the time, as we talked about, this company actually has programs that if you are taking public transit, they provide you with a stipend. You know, and things like that should be expected if a company is wanting to make sure that they are more equitable in their hiring practices and in their representation of their workforce. They need to think about what those limiting factors are, and they need to be working to address them too.
Right.
And the little things add up.
Oh, yeah, they do.
We have a 4-year-old, and we were driving somewhere the other day, and he looks out the window and sees a homeless man standing there in the cold. And he says, "Well, Mommy, can't you give him the dollars and get the magazine?" And I said, "Well, he's not a part of that program. He doesn't have magazines, and I don't have any money on me today, but you're right. What do you think we should do?" And he was very quick to say, "We should have something we can give him. We should, not everybody, Mommy, has a warm home to go to. So what can we do? What can we have in the car? Can we do something?" And he's 4 and has never really known about homelessness, but knows about Curbside Chronicle. And so, I'm already brainstorming what to put in a bag to hand out the window that he can safely hand out to people as he sees need. A way to be polite, but also to hopefully start creating community with those who are often unseen.
That is another great idea. You all are giving me so many different things that I can do, like tomorrow, i.e., because I'm not a human that keeps cash on me. I am a Cash App, Venmo, yeah. And so when I'm in those spaces, if I have a couple of coins, I'll give it, but then it's like,
What does that add up to?
right,
Right.
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 Where if I keep food or keep things in my car,
Those
that,
hot hand things.
yes,
It's the season to have hot hands.
yes,
Or, a reusable grocery bag.
yes,
With stuff in it that can be
yes,
reused. I'm looking at going to like Aldi and getting reusable grocery bags.
right,
Putting some things in them that we can hand out.
right,
We think of these things this time of year,
right,
but what about come March?
right,
Or May?
Right.
Or the
Right.
100-degree weather,
right, right,
and carrying waters and things are heavy, and, how do you do refillable water bottles
right,
instead of plastic ones?
Right.
And just some of those kinds of things has me spiraling into a thought of how do I teach my 4-year-old that we pay attention to the community in which we live.
Question, are there humans that are not here that have comments or thoughts?
No, not at the time.
Okay, that's fine. Anyone else before we start wrapping up? This has really been a really good conversation. Definitely have given me some micro and macro things to think about. As I am moving forward in Oklahoma, again, Sean, thank you for riding your bike and coming in and to be transparent, you came in and it was like, I'm getting here, I'm getting here, I'm getting here. And understanding all that you are bringing when you did that. That was very powerful for me. Very, very powerful. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. Hopefully this is planting some seeds for you of what you can do moving forward. Would love to stay connected with you, be it as we are walking through this space and I say, hey, what's going on with you in transportation and equity, and you share and I share, and then we just keep this going. It doesn't necessarily have to be a space like this. I mean, this is great, but again, we all have lives and we need to keep going with our lives and adding things that we can do to make equitable transportation in Oklahoma a thing. Still be polite if you choose. No shade if you don't. But if you do, and if you do, identify ways that you can make a difference, a sustainable difference. That's all I have.
Woo, awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. And again,